Okay, thank you and welcome to our webinar, Celebrate Native American Heritage via Learning Commons Resources. I'm Craig Anderson. I'm one of the many helpful and enthusiastic librarians here at the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons at Kean University. With me, as always, are my colleagues Linda Cifelli and Chrysler Pitts. And we're going to be talking about some of the resources that we have here at the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons on the Native American heritage and the history of, Native American Heritage History Day. So I'm going to just start with, I'm going to give you a little preview of our agenda here. I'm going to be doing the introduction. In fact, I'm doing that right now. And then we are going to move on to some of the multimedia resources that we have on Native American heritage. And then Chrysler is going to take over talking about some of the biography resources and historical newspapers. Linda is going to be talking about the research guides, statistics, and scholarly journals. And finally, we're going to kind of wrap it up with some discussion questions as well. So if you can see my screen right now, I'm going to go to the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons homepage, which is right here. Let me reload this, show you what it will look like when you first get here. And you can get here by going to learningcommons.kean.edu or going to library.kean.edu. And what usually comes up when you go to this website is the Welcome to the LC Engagement Zone. This is the pop-up that comes up. It's this large pop-up. And it's designed to kind of give you access to some of the things that you would need when you're coming to the Learning Commons homepage. We also have a little support chat window right here on the side. I'm going to be minimizing that right now, but please feel free to use the Learning Commons support chat. This is a way that you can have a private, like one-on-one chat with a librarian or a library professional worker. And this is actually a 24/7 chat service. You can access it any time of the day. If there's not a librarian at Kean available at the time that you start your chat question, you might be forwarded to a librarian somewhere else in the country or even overseas or in Mexico or Canada. But it will be somebody who is trained as a librarian and can help you with your research. They might just not know any Kean specific questions. So let me minimize that. I'm going to jump right into the A to Z list of databases here. This is a list of all of the databases that we have access to. And there's a lot of them. There's 253 databases right now. So this can get a little bit overwhelming. You can search for them by subject or by database type or by vendor if you really have brand loyalty to one vendor. But for right now, I'm going to be showing you some of the multimedia resources that we have. So I'm going to start by going to Films on Demand. Films on Demand is one of the multimedia databases that we have. It's provided to us by Info-Based Learning is the company. And I'm going to click on this, and this will let you search through different movies and movie segments. Most of these are educational films. Unfortunately, you don't get any of the Hollywood blockbusters right now yet through Films on Demand. But we can do a search here for, like, say, different Native American titles. There's one here for the Texas Myth, which looks like it has something to do with the pipeline. We can do a search here either for just Native Americans. And I always forget to capitalize that N for some reason. Or we could have done a search for like a specific tribe if we want to search for Apache or Navajo or Cherokee, something like that. And this will give us several options to choose from. And you have to kind of pay attention to how it lists the different films, because some of these are listed as just segments. It seems to favor a search according to segment. So this is a segment, Spirituality Sustains Native Americans, but it's just a part of the overall video entitled Native Americans Celebrating Traditions. So I'm just going to click on Native Americans Celebrating Traditions, and this would allow us to watch the whole video, and this is a half-hour long video. I'm just going to play a little bit of it right now. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it because I think the sound doesn't translate very well between the video and the microphone on the Zoom call. Linda, Chris, or can either of you hear that? A little bit?
I could hear it a little bit.
Oh,
Very
okay.
faint. Yeah.
Very faint.
Mhm.
Okay, it's really loud in the office. That's why I'm shouting. So one of the other things that you can do, I'm sorry, let me just pause this for a minute. One of the other things that you can do as you're going through this video is that you can access the transcript over here on the side. This transcript will give you a full transcript of the entire video. Sorry. This will give you a transcript of the entire video so you can read through the whole video. If you start playing the video, the transcript will scroll along with the video. And if you, one of the things that you can do is if you're in this window, you can click on Control F, which is, oh, sorry, no, that wasn't it. Exit the full screen. Are you still seeing the screen? Okay. Sorry. Usually if you're clicked somewhere in the video, you can do Control F. Yeah, there we go. And it will bring us to a search screen. Control F is for find something in the page. So if we want to look for something specific, like let's say if we want to look for Navajo, I haven't actually tried this yet. And okay, scroll down. So you should be able to see here, the word Navajo appears twice in this video. Where was the first instance of it? Oh, the first instance was down here on this page, sorry. So here it is, it says, at this point, we live in our Navajo world. We can just click on that sentence and it will take us right to that point in the video where they're talking about the Navajo. So this will like actually allow you to search within the video for a particular word or phrase or concept or something like that. And you can always share this video with other people. If you click on the little share, you can email it, or you can send it as a link or an embed code if you want to embed it into, especially if you're doing this for a class, if you're a professor and you want to include this video in one of your classes, you click on share. That will give you the embed link so that you can put it into your Blackboard. So that's Films on Demand. And then under here it has a description, it has tags if you want to look for other things on Native Americans in the United States or something like that. We have other videos here as well. So that's Films on Demand. I definitely encourage you to use it. It's very helpful. I do want to look through one other database. There is another database called the Naxos Music Library. This is another one of our multimedia databases. And when they have Naxos Music Library, we have two databases actually. We have Naxos Music Library and Naxos Music Library Jazz. I keep trying to get my colleague, Christopher, to get us Naxos Music Library Heavy Metal, but she keeps telling me it doesn't exist. So I'm going to go to just the regular Naxos Music Library right here. And through this, we can search through a lot of different types of music. Most of it tends to be like classical music, especially music that's in the public domain. But we can search for example, I forget what I looked for before. I think I just looked for Native American again. And then this will bring us some music with Native American history behind it, Native American notes. I saw a good one here, and now, of course, I'm not seeing it. This one. But it was kind of a Native American chamber music, for lack of a better term. And again, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this when this comes up through the audio. Maybe a little bit. No, not at all. It's a very faint, like wood flute sound. Sounds really pretty, but. So you can do a search here through like Native American music, or as I said before, wait, I have to hide the player. We could have searched for specific tribes, something like that. Okay, now it's not loud. For me anyway. But that will give you an idea of the different types of music that you can look for. I'm just going to close that window. So yeah, there's all sorts of other multimedia resources that we have. I encourage you to use them. You can search those through database types, and we'll show you the multimedia databases that we have. But now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Pitts, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about biography resources and historical newspapers. So.
Thanks, Craig. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay. Sorry. Can you see it now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. For the next few moments, we will look at databases that provide biography resources, and we're going to look at two of our historical newspaper collections. And I'm going to start at the A through C databases page as well, just like Craig did. And I'm going to use the All Database Types menu. And our first selection is biographies. And the Learning Commons has 7 databases that provide biographical information. And for today's demonstration, I'm going to use Biography Reference Bank. It features biographical profiles, as well as obituaries, magazine articles, images, and even performance reviews. And for today, I'd like to feature the life well lived of Wilma Mankiller. She was the first woman elected chief of a Cherokee tribe. So I wanted to search for her biography. And Wilma Mankiller, in 1985, she became the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. She sought to improve the nation's healthcare, education system, and government. She decided not to seek re-election in 1985 due to ill health, but after leaving office, she remained an activist for Native American and women's rights until her death on April 6, 2010 in Adair County, Oklahoma. And you'll notice the database has 61 results. In addition to biographies, you'll see that there are magazine articles, book reviews, obituaries, and interviews. So let's briefly look at her obituary. And let's look, there are 2. And let's look at the one published in 2010. This is from Current Biography. And this is her obituary. And one thing good about the EBSCO database, you can have the article read to you. If you click right here, I'm not going to demonstrate it today because you will not be able to hear the sound, but you can listen to the article, or you can even translate the language. If you'd like to, you can read the article in another language. And ProQuest gives you many options for saving the articles. You can save to Google Drive. If you have an EBSCO folder, you can save it to your folder. You can print the article or email it. You can save it to a disk. EBSCO provides citation options. You can copy and paste one of these citations. Please make sure that you're aware that these are machine generated, so you should check your citation manuals. You can export it to EasyBib or EndNote if you have one of those programs. EBSCO gives you the option of creating a note if you're signed into your account. And this is a link for the permalink. This is a permanent link to the article. If you're going to share this link in your Blackboard with your students, or if you're sharing this, you're working on a class project, make sure you use this permalink and not the link at the top of the screen. The link at the top of the screen will expire, but this is a permanent link to the article. And as I shared earlier, you can listen to the article or you can translate it. Let's look at some of the other results in our list. We had 61. And this database also provides videos like Films on Demand. And this is a video of Wilma Mankiller. She received the Medal of Freedom from President Clinton. You're not going to be able to hear it if I do play it, but Biography Reference Bank provides videos as well as all of the other options that I showed you earlier. But you're not going to be able to hear it, so can you hear that? Okay, so let's go back to our result list. Biography Reference Bank is a really good database for biographical research, and we encourage you to use this database instead of Wikipedia. Let's switch gears, and we're going to go back to the A through Z databases page. And I'm going to use all database types menu again, and I'm going to look at 2 of our historical newspaper collections. We have 18 newspapers that we subscribe to, and we have the America's Historical Newspapers. We also have the New Jersey Historical Newspaper Collection, and we have historical newspapers, the New York Times. We're going to start here, and then we'll look at one of our database collections. And since we just explored the life of Wilma Mankiller, I decided to search for her again in the New York Times to see how many articles were written about her during her lifetime. So let's search for Wilma Mankiller to see what we find. And you'll see that we have 28 results, and you can limit to full text if you like. Request sorts by relevance, but you can change to oldest first or most recent first. And I think I'm going to switch to oldest. And our date range for these articles are 1987 to 2015. And you can change that if you want. You can enter a date range, or you can just pull this little icon up and have a smaller date range. And publication title, of course, is the New York Times, but you can select the document type. We have front page articles, letters to the editor. You have options for the type of articles you'd like to read. And let's just look at one of the articles. The first one, Cherokee Have History of Women Leaders. This was published in the New York Times, July 9th, 1987. And this is actually a letter. And let me see if we can get page view. Okay, and this is how the letter appeared in the New York Times. And with this database, if you want additional details, you can click there to get details regarding the article. And ProQuest, just like the EBSCOhost database, provides options for saving the information. If you click right here where it says all options, you can download the PDF or download the entire page. ProQuest also gives citation options, just like EBSCO. You'll see the APA 6 is here, but you have other options, Chicago, Harvard, MLA. But just like with EBSCO, these are machine generated, so make sure you check your citation manual. You also have other options for saving. You can save the article into the cloud in Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. If you have one of the citation management programs like EasyBib or RefWorks, you can save your citation there. And you have other options for saving. One good feature of the ProQuest database is that you'll see that there are related items to the topic that we searched. Here's one from the Journal of Social History, Cherokee Women, Gender and Culture, 1700 through 1835. Right here, you'll see that this is a review, a book review of a biography of Wilma Mankiller. Then here's another article from the Journalism and Mass Communication Educator. This was published in 1998. And you'll see her obituary is at the bottom. So ProQuest provides lots of options for finding additional information on the topic that you are searching. And we're going to look at one more historical newspaper database. We're going to look at America's Historical Newspapers from ReadX, and this collection provides access to early American newspapers from 1690 to 1789. And this database actually includes 3 separate collections. We have early American newspapers from New Jersey, early American newspapers from 1690 to 1789, and early American newspapers from 1780 to 1789. And since we were looking at Wilma Mankiller, and she's from the Cherokee tribe, and I don't know what just happened, I touched my screen. So let's go back, and I decided to search for Cherokee Indians. and see how many articles were available. We have 817 results, and this database has lots of unique features. I'll be honest, I don't use this database very often, but I had a lot of fun using the database. You can limit your results to the publication name. These are all the publications that are represented in this list. So if you wanted to focus on, say, maybe just the Pennsylvania Gazette, you could click that link and read the articles from the Pennsylvania Gazette. You can even, if you want articles from a certain location, like maybe you only want to read articles from New Jersey, you can click that link and read the 191 articles from New Jersey. You have options with the article type. There are 710 news articles in this list, but you could choose an advertisement, or if you wanted to look at letters. And you have options for choosing the era in American history. If you want to choose 1784 to 1792 Articles of Confederation, you can click that link. You see that there are 172 articles that were written during that time period. Or you can choose the American Revolution, and there are more options still. So you have all these options to choose where you want to read, what time period you like to use. This database also provides US presidential eras. So if you want to only read articles that were published during Theodore Roosevelt's time period, 1901 to 1909, you have that option. And then you can also choose the decade. Maybe you only want to read articles from 1750 to 1759. You can choose that link. And last but not least, you can choose a specific year. So those are the options that we have available to us with this database. And I'm just going to look at the first article, Legislative Acts, Legal Proceedings. This was published March 22nd, 1731 in the Boston Gazette in Boston, Massachusetts. And our article is loading. And this is our article. Unfortunately, it's not very clear, and you can print these articles, and I decided to print it to see if it was a little bit easier to read, and I'll actually show you how it looks. Can you see that? So it's not very clear. Can you see it, Craig? It's not very clear, but this is still great. And you can see that this is page 1 of 4. And if you go through the pages, what you will see is that our search terms are highlighted. And for some reason, okay, let's try this. This is better. Okay, this is page 2. And let me see. Page 3. Okay, and page 4, and of course you don't see any of our search terms highlighted. If you look over here on the right, you can use this little navigation tool over here to navigate through the article. And if you want to search within this specific issue, you can do that. You can search the Boston Gazette for March 22nd, 1731. These are the details on this specific paper, this issue. This database gives you citation options, also like ProQuest and EBSCO. For example, if you're using APA, you can copy the citation format, but this database tells you always check automatically generated citations against the official manual or guide. And that's good advice. You can download the article you can download the page or save it to Google Drive. You can print the article, you can email it to yourself, and this database also gives you a folder option. So if you'd like to save your articles or save your searches, I'll just show you quickly what you can do with this database. You can save your articles and save your searches. Oops. Okay, and give me just a minute. I'm going to sign into my folder. Okay, and you'll see at the top it says Chrysler's folder, and you'll see that I have several saved articles. It gives you the headline, the source, the date it was published, and the date you created it. You can also save your searches if you'd like to. And I'll show you that just really quickly. It saves your searches and the keywords. So this is really good if you are doing research and you run out of time, but you want to come back. You can always explore the folder option. So this is a really good database to use for historical research. And when you get an opportunity, check it out. Now my colleague Linda Cifelli will show you additional databases to help you research Native American heritage topics. And
Thank you,
as soon as
Crysler.
I finish sharing my screen. Stop. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So thanks, Crysler. I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Share. Okay, so are you able to see the Learning Commons website? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the Learning Commons website typically offers multiple access points to get to some of our databases. So you do have choices. So I did want to highlight one of the options available to you. When you're looking at the Learning Commons website, there is a row with links just below the Search WorldCat Discovery search bar. So towards the right on this row of links, there is a link called Research Guides. When you click Research Guides, a new window pops open and it leads you to a page that lists a large collection of subject-focused guides that have been created by Kean University's librarians, and in some cases, some of our other colleagues. And it is a way for you to get some guidance, or at least our suggestions for various resources that you might be able to use for different subject areas. When you first land on the Research Guides page, you'll see that the subject menu, but I did want to point out that if you look above the subject area section, there is an option to switch to all guides, where you just see an alphabetical listing of all of the guides that have been created. You could also go by group, by subject, which is where we are, or by type, or by owner. For today's session, I think we will be okay just by staying on the subject menu. Notice how the subject areas are listed in alphabetical order. And when you scroll down in the center column, towards the bottom, there's a link for Native American Studies. And when you click, a little menu of 3 guides pops open. And one of the guides is Native American History. And I'll just click on that. So here we are on the Native American History Guide. And what we have here is a guide that uses a format or a template that we use on all of our other subject area guides as well. So typically what you'll see is a menu with these buttons along the left-hand side. Our old template had those buttons extending across like the top third of the screen, but we recently switched to the left-hand side menu, and we hope that you'll find this to be user-friendly and pleasant to work with. What we did with this Native American History Guide is we added this initial page that focuses on Native American History Month. So specifically focusing on the topic area for our workshop today. And when you scroll further, there's a section that talks about the origins of Native American Heritage Month. I'm not going to read this whole quote, but it is coming from a Native American Heritage Month.gov website. So it's coming from a US government website that provides the history of the Heritage Month celebrations. When you scroll a little bit further on the screen, oh, and I should mention that Craig, our esteemed colleague, is the person who is working on this research guide right now. It was originally created by our colleague, Jeanette Gonzalez, who has since retired, but Craig has taken over the guide and is updating it and doing a great job. When you scroll a little bit further, there is a section labeled recommended books where Craig has inserted book cover images of a number of, I think they're all ebooks that focus on Native American history and other Native American topics. When you scroll over, some of them are, they're all electronic books. So if any of them had said main collection or reference collection, then you would know that it would be a hard copy or a print book here in the Learning Commons. But these are all electronic books that you can access simply by clicking the link for the title. And as we're seeing right now, this one happens to be asking me to log in with my Kean email username and password. So I'll go ahead and do that. This means that I can be working from anywhere on campus or off, and I can access the full text for this ebook. So you have other ebook options on this page. And when you search in our WorldCat Discovery database, you might find additional ebooks or print books that you can read, things that are available from Keene University's Learning Commons. So this one happens to be a book that's focusing on the Native American experience, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, the Fetterman Massacre, and Creek Mary's Blood. It is an ebook that you can access either by downloading the book, you have that option, or clicking read online. I won't go into this right now. I really just wanted to highlight that the research guide is highlighting some quick books, almost like a virtual bookshelf that you can use to access information, reading material about Native American heritage, Native American history. We have so many other books and ebooks that are available to you, but this is just a quick start option where you can click right from here. And I'll just scroll back up a little bit. I mentioned earlier that we have this menu along the left-hand side of the screen, and the menu items that you see will appear on other research guides as well. So typically, start your research here. The second menu button on the left is what you would normally click into when you first visit a LibGuide. And when I click there now, this is what we're seeing. What you typically see on the Start Your Research Here page are the types of information that are often useful at the beginning stages of our research project. So when you're trying to get ideas for topics, maybe definitions or background information that can help you when you're trying to figure out your topic and what avenues you want to take with that topic. So for instance, what you'll typically find recommended on the Start Your Research Here page are subject-focused encyclopedias or subject-focused dictionaries or handbooks. We have a little bit of information about what subject-focused encyclopedias are. They're not things like World Book Encyclopedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, which are more general in nature. Instead, subject-focused encyclopedias are like the ones that we see here. Craig has listed some recommended subject-focused reference resources that focus on Native American studies, Native American history, and so on. So for instance, we do have here, there's an electronic resource, an ebook, American Holocaust, The Conquest of the New World. You can access by clicking the link for the title. In some of these other cases, we actually have print books that are shelved in various places in the Learning Commons, like the reference collection second floor, where we have this Encyclopedia of Native American Shamanism. And then you can scroll over to see some of the others that will perhaps give you some background information. Again, information that you can utilize at the beginning of a project. When you scroll down a little bit further on the screen, we have a box labeled Recommended Online Reference Databases. And here we do have links to things like the Oxford Reference Database, where you can go in and search for additional reference books, encyclopedias, dictionaries that cover the topic that you're working on. Gale databases is another option, as is Sage Knowledge. So even though we have listed and provided links to a handful of ebooks and information about a handful of print books up here, it's likely that you would find additional reference book resources. So for instance, if you click on the link for Sage Knowledge, if you are off campus, it will ask you to log in with your Keene email username and password. Once you're logged in, you have the search box where you can type in your keywords. So even if I just start with a very general search on Native Americans, it's not case sensitive, so I am just doing lowercase, so I'm typing faster. I could put Native American and then asterisk, try to make this a little bigger. And that would simply allow the database to locate items that have, excuse me, Native American singular or Native Americans plural. The asterisk symbol works in other databases as well whenever you type the beginning parts of a word and let the database do the work for you. So what we have now in Sage Knowledge is it's picking up on a collection of ebooks that somewhere within the ebook, it mentions the terms Native American or Native Americans. As you scroll further, you'll find that in addition to the entire books that you see showing up on the result list, you also, in some cases, will have chapters from a book or an article from a book showing up. And sometimes that's my preference, to focus specifically on the chapters in the books rather than having to click into a book and then search around a second time within the book. And what you can do, if you scroll back up towards the top of the list, look on the left-hand side. There's a section labeled Quick Filters. And on the list under Quick Filters is an option for works and sections. I'm going to click that. And notice how both chapters, entries is selected, as well as entire works. I'm going to remove the check mark by entire works and click Apply Filter. And now, if it works properly, what I should see on my list are only chapter links as opposed to links to entire books. And for me, that seems like a more efficient way to work because I don't have to search a second time if I go into an entire book. So as I scroll down, what I'll see here, what I am seeing now are chapters published in various books. So this first one, Native American and Mexican American Resistance to US Sovereignty, is from the CQ Press Guide to Radical Politics in the United States. So it's a reference book focusing on political science. And as you scroll further, here we have a book that's focusing on sociology with an article or a chapter on Native American studies. So what we typically get in a database like Sage Knowledge are chapters, articles that approach the topic from different subject area perspectives. This next one is actually an article or a chapter from an education book. And as I scroll further, there are some others that I might try, like criminal justice. Here we have multicultural psychology and so on. If I click on the link for the chapter title, I'm not going to click on the title of the book. Instead, I'll click on the title of the chapter. I will see the full text for that chapter. So scrolling down has the information about the article, what book it was published in, who edited the book, and so on. And then as I keep scrolling, there's the full text. And what you typically see in the chapters that appear in the Sage Knowledge database are articles or chapters with background information, perhaps explanatory information, like information that gives you like a good basis of knowledge about your topic, which I think can be very helpful before you go to the databases that provide access to journal articles, where you often have to dig in deeper and really focus on very specifically on something. So this allows you to get the good foundational knowledge before you start digging in further. And as Chrysler had noted before, other databases provide access to options like downloading or citing. Here we do see those options. I scrolled back up towards the top of the chapter, and on the right side of the screen, I can click download PDF. I can click cite and choose my citation style, but bear in mind that it's computer generated. It may not be perfectly formatted. And as Chrysler said, you will have to make corrections as necessary. There's a share option, which allows you to, for instance, email the article record to yourself. So these are common features. There's a get link option as well, where you have a hyperlink that you can copy and paste somewhere. So again, the result list will hopefully give you some good articles that are starting points for your research. I would say that databases like the Gale databases, which was another option back on the research guide, on the Start Your Research Here page, we do have a link for Gale databases, a little bit above Sage Knowledge. When you click Gale databases, it's going to give you a whole bunch of Gale database options. It's a little bit slow. Hopefully it'll come up in a moment. If not, I'll back out. It's not usually this slow. So we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna back out. So please take my word for it. The Gale ebook What I was going to do is go to the Gale ebook database, which is very similar to Sage Knowledge in that it provides access to chapters or articles published in subject-focused encyclopedias. So when you have a chance, I definitely recommend that you try that one out. So yeah, there are other options that are listed on this Start Your Research Here page. I am actually going to circle back to this page in a few minutes because there are some other links that are provided a little bit below the Sage and Gale links. For instance, we have Films on Demand, which Craig had visited earlier in his part of the workshop. And then there are some other options here as well, which I'll circle back to. There are also some related guides here on the left. But as I scroll back up and look again at the menu along the left side of the screen, the rest of the menu items are common features on our other research guides as well. So if you're focusing on finding books, you could click there and it gives you some information about how you can go about searching for books available from the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons at Keene University. Basically, it directs you back to the WorldCat Discovery search box on the Learning Commons homepage. But it does provide some direct links to some of our ebook databases, as well as information about how you can seek books from other libraries, not just at Keene. So these are types of things that can come in handy, including the interlibrary loan request option that is available to you as well. Back up on the top left side, we have the Find Articles section. When you click there, what we have now is a list of the databases that are recommended when you're trying to find articles about your topic. So earlier, Chrysler had focused on how you can find newspaper articles, biographical articles, and she covered databases that allow you to get scholarly peer-reviewed articles, and additional database options are available here as well. So we do have descriptions provided below each database link, and hopefully those descriptions can help you make some choices about which databases you want to go to. Notice how a number of the databases listed here have the word EBSCOhost in parentheses after the database name. EBSCO is one of the vendors that we use to subscribe to many of our databases, but you'll also see ProQuest as an option. Also, we have JSTOR, which is a very, very good and excellent scholarly journal article database. Project Muse is another excellent scholarly database. And we have other options here as well. One of our newer databases, I believe, is the one called Ethnic Diversity Source, one of our EBSCO databases. And this, I think, would be an interesting database to use when you're looking for scholarly journal articles and perhaps other types of articles, including magazines and newspapers. And you could just click on the link for the database name, and then you're inside the database and you can run your search. But I should also note that right above the search box, there is a link for Choose Databases. And if you click Choose Databases, you'll see the list of all of the other databases that we get from the EBSCO company. And I think it's a great idea to add some additional databases to your search. In a way, it's doing one-stop shopping. You're searching once, but you're covering articles that are available through a number of different databases. If you so choose, you could always click Select All at the top and just go for it and search all of the databases. Or you can choose some specific databases as listed on the menu here. If you move the cursor over the bubble to the right of the database name, it'll show you the description of the database, and that can help you make your choices. But I would probably click Academic Search Premier. It's a multidisciplinary database. I would maybe do America, History and Life, which covers history of the United States and Canada. If you wanted to focus on psychology or education, you have those options. We also have, there we see the ethnic diversity source is already selected. That was my initial step. I would probably also select Soc Index with full text. It's a sociology database. And then We could choose others, but for now I'll go with these. Click OK. We're back on the search form. If I click show all, I'll see all of the databases I had selected. Now, this database I think will work best if we connect our keywords with the word and. It's a Boolean search. If we just do a Google search and just throw keywords in, it may not work that well. The database will not interpret it properly. But because the database does default to the Boolean type of search, it will work much better if we connect our search terms. I'll use the asterisk after Native American to allow for plural Native Americans as well. But I'll use the word and then plug in my other search terms. So I'll do perhaps oral tradition and Native American, run the search. And then I'm getting 500 articles that pick up on those two sets of phrases, Native American and oral tradition. So it's a decent sized result list to look at. Notice how as you scroll down, some of the articles have the label academic journal, which means that they are likely articles published in scholarly peer-reviewed journals. But number one on the list actually has a different label. It's categorized as a periodical, which in EBSCO tends to mean magazine. And as you scroll further, you may see other items that are labeled with newspaper or book or something else. If you do want to focus on journal articles, scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles, it's really easy to do that. You just scroll back up to the top, but look on the left-hand side. There's a section labeled Limit 2. You can add a check mark by scholarly peer-reviewed journals. And then the database just weeds out, removes the non-scholarly journal articles. So the list dropped about 100 items. And then I can scroll down and see if anything looks interesting. I definitely wouldn't go just on the article titles, the linked parts. I would also look at the subject words that appear several lines below an article title, because those subject terms give you an idea of what the article is about, as well as they may suggest ideas for different keywords that you can try when you revise your search. So if you click on an article title, you could also view the article's abstract, the one paragraph summary, which again will give you an idea of whether or not the article is relevant for your research, but may perhaps suggest different or alternative keywords for you to use when you revise your search. And certainly, I wouldn't recommend that you only go with one search and then call it a day. Try your different ideas out and see if the results get better or at least different when you try different keywords. For instance, maybe you want to focus on oral history and Native American. You could always just switch out tradition with history. Better yet, maybe do a slightly more advanced search strategy. Just put a parenthesis in front of oral tradition. After oral tradition, use a different type of connector, maybe the word or, and then try oral history or oral histor with an asterisk to allow the database to pick up on oral history, histories or historiography perhaps, or maybe storytelling, storytell to get storytellers. Try different ideas, close parentheses. So basically you're giving the database a chance to find not only Native Americans, but also it can pick up on either oral tradition, oral history, or storytelling, storytellers. The database doesn't have to find articles that have all three of those terms that are grouped in parentheses, but at least one of them. And we should get more articles. So the list bumps up to 1,033 articles. It kept the scholarly peer review limit. Notice how it has a publication date range on the left, which in this case goes pretty far back. The earliest article on this list was published in 1952. But if you're exploring the historical perspective on a topic, that might be okay. But always be aware of any date range limits that might be in place in a course or on a project that you're working on. You may need to, in some projects, limit to the last 5 years or the last 10 years. And hopefully you're getting lots of full text options for your searches, but as I said, please try different ideas. If you're struggling with your keywords, talk to a librarian and we'll try our best to help you figure out what other options you might have and just in general, help you to brainstorm. There's so much more that we could talk about in terms of these databases, but I do want to show one other database option that's available back on our databases page. So I'm just going to go back to the Find Articles screen. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these other databases. Hopefully you'll have a chance to explore on your own. But also when you have a chance, please explore these other page links that appear on the left-hand side on the menu. We have a section labeled Find Websites, where Craig and previously our colleague Jeanette Gonzalez had located a number of really excellent websites that have great information. So definitely take a look at those. There's also a Cites Sources section where we have information about the citation style guides that are available through the Learning Commons, either in hard copy format, where you can get them at the front service area in the Learning Commons, or in some cases, you'll see a hyperlink to an ebook version. But we've also linked to a number of the online style guides that may help you, including the style guides that have been produced by Kean University's writing services and other websites like the Purdue OWL and other from other organizations. So definitely take a look at those when you have a chance. But before I finish, I just wanted to go back to the Start Your Research Here page, because one of the items that was down at the bottom of the screen is a section labeled Statistics Databases. And there are some links to databases that we have access to from our Databases A to Z page that will be excellent sources of data, statistics, numbers related to a topic. We won't go through all of them, but some of these are great for like census information about population, like Social Explorer. I would also take a look at, this seems actually to be an older list of our databases. I was actually looking for Statista, which I don't see here. So we'll have to maybe, we'll fix that. But let me just quickly go back to the databases page, and under databases A to Z, I'll go through S and then scroll down. In alphabetical order, we have Statista way at the bottom. It's a really fun statistics database. I guess as fun as statistics can be, but I think it's really cool because if you type in your search terms, you can do a keyword search. I'm just doing a quick search on Native American asterisk. And the database picks up on different data sets. The ones that have the blue boxes are actually direct links to statistics. The ones that have different colored boxes, like the orange, are statistical dossiers or some sort of report that give you multiple sets of data. And then you get different types of colorful squares showing up as you scroll down on the list. But what you could do here, if there's anything that looks like it's relevant for research that you're doing, or you could always plug in a very more specific search terms at the top. But what we could do here is click on something that's relevant to what you're exploring, such as the sports teams with Native American imagery or Native American names, US states with the highest number of Native population, and so on. Notice how we do have the date when the data was published. So some of the reports are going to be older, some are going to be newer. Here we have US metropolitan areas with the highest percentage of Native population from 2019. I'm going to click on that one because I want you to see how what you get is a visual representation of the data. So in this case, it's giving you a graph that shows you the numbers. So it's not just the numbers, they're representing it to you in some way. And you will get different types of graphs depending on whichever link you happen to click on. Here's one for, let's see, sorry, I'm just gonna go back up here. I'll click on one of the more recently published ones where you see a different, this one's actually giving a pie chart. So the database Statista does give you different options for downloading the results. So if you are doing a paper and you'd like to put this image into your paper, you have the option to download either a PDF or an image, the PNG image. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you can download the graph as a PowerPoint slide. And maybe you're taking a statistics class and you'd like to get the data behind this image into an Excel spreadsheet. Well, you have the option to download as a spreadsheet as well. So these different download options will hopefully be really handy. Notice how you're also getting the source information on the right side. So the source is the Nielsen company. So I think they do surveys and so on, polls, and more details. So you get the information about who was surveyed as part of this. So I think Statista is an excellent source of information, not only for research on Native American heritage, but also for other research topics that you might explore for different courses or for different personal interests. So definitely take a look. And I'll just go back out to our research guide, if I can find it. I think I lost it, sorry. But we have tons of other databases. Hopefully you'll have a chance to try them out. Maybe not all of them, but a good number of them, because each database gives you different types of information. So I'm going to pass the mic back over to my colleague, Craig. I'll stop sharing so we can do that.
Okay, sorry. And what do I want to get back to? This thing here, our agenda. And I'm just going to go to full screen. And I'm going to go to the next slide, which is where we have our discussion and questions. Are there any questions, any comments? Linda, Chrysler, do you have anything else that you wanted to say? Anything I forgot to mention, because I feel like I forgot to say 100 other things that I wanted to say when I was doing my segment.
I just want to share that all the databases that we covered today, you can use these databases from home with your King Google email credentials.
Yes, absolutely.
Providing access.
Right. Okay. If there are no other questions, I'm going to bring this webinar to a close, although I am going to first share our contact information. Those are our email addresses. If you have any questions about anything that we've covered here today, or anything that we haven't covered today, because we're librarians, that's kind of what we do, please feel free to contact us, please stop in the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons whenever you get a chance. We're always happy to help you with any of your projects or research or anything you're doing for your classes. So, thank you all for coming, and hope to see you again soon. And have a good day, or whatever you're doing next. So, all right, I'm going to stop this session if I can. So, there we go.